Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off talking about Atari 2600 emulation with Stella, and version 6.7.1 just dropped. This is the first major update in a year and a half, and I've got one big concern. So on their GitHub page under issues, someone reported VirusTotal and Windows Defender are flagging this emulator as a Trojan. And sure enough, over on VirusTotal, the Windows 32-bit version is being flagged by McAfee and Microsoft as containing a virus. Now this does happen from time to time. Sometimes false positives pop up with emulators. However, there was a comment here that really made me concerned. So on that issue, they say thanks. I will pull the release immediately and do new builds. Seems to be only present in the 32-bit builds, not the 64-bit builds. And now heading over to the releases page, and I can see Stella 6.7.1. I cannot see the Windows 32-bit build. And there is a note here, edit, Windows builds are being recreated due to a virus being present. So this really isn't that confidence inspiring. It doesn't seem like it actually may be a false positive. It may be a real virus that was included in Stella. Fortunately, Stella is 100% free and open source, and the issue appears to be only with the Windows 32-bit version. If you are using Stella, I'd recommend exercising caution, maybe running it through VirusTotal. Otherwise, if you're not using the Windows 32-bit version, you should hopefully be fine. Next up, we're really quickly talking about PSP emulation on Android with PPSSPP. Now, version 1.17 is just around the corner. However, there was an update we talked about on Android. If you are using PPSSPP from Google Play, if you head to the Google Play Store page, there's an option to join the beta. And this should hook you up with a much more recent version as opposed to the one that was released on October 12th. And interestingly enough, when we talked about this last time, there was no beta testing option for the gold version of PPSSPP, which is the exact same version as the normal version, except this one is paid to help support the developers. Anyways, I raised this issue up over on GitHub, and I suggested the gold version should have the join the beta program option as well to retain parity with the free version. And Henrik, the main developer of PPSSPP, says, I will add this soon. I'm just starting to experiment with running a beta program. But this would obviously be a good thing. This has now been rolled out, just waiting for approval. Already added the link in the meantime. So true to his word, if you head on over to PPSSPP Gold on Google Play now, there's a brand new option to join the beta. And it'll get you the much more updated version. Alternatively though, if you didn't want to wait for Google Play, you can head right to PPSSP's website, click on downloads and scroll down the page and pick up the latest and greatest version from here. Moving on, and we're talking about Nintendo Switch emulation on PC with Ryujinx, and Ryujinx just released their progress report. I'll drop a link to it in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. It's well written and pretty informative, and we're just going over it at a high level. So first thing on the report here, if you're using the Vulkan backend on Intel, AMD, or Nvidia, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is now playable. They resolved a graphical bug in Yokai Watch. This is before and this is after, and you can actually see the bug. There's a huge improvement here to wet steps. This is the before and this is after. Rendering was also fixed in Super Mario RPG. This is the before. If you take a look at Mario House, it's a little bit dark. This is after. It's a lot lighter and rendering correctly. For Apple users specifically, the minimum macOS version has been increased to macOS 12 from macOS 11. This is amazing here. There is a pretty big efficiency boost resulting in a lot less wattage. For Tears of the Kingdom, for example, on an Apple M2, before is 11.2 watts. After is 6.9 watts. I mean, they say right here, and this is verbatim, Apple and Linux devices will be seeing the largest benefit here, with some seriously impressive efficiency gains at equal frame rate and resolution. Tears of the Kingdom is being slashed by almost 40%. Red Dead Redemption and Breath of the Wild both see very healthy 15 to 20% shifts. And Pokemon Violet practically sheds everything with a 75% reduction. For perspective, that is an M2 MacBook Air emulating Pokemon Violet more efficiently than the Switch plays it natively. So what does that mean for you? Well, Ryujinx has you covered. They're glad you asked. These changes can result in additional hours of battery life while reducing the magnitude and frequency of thermal throttling. particularly in fanless devices such as the MacBook Air family. It also allows devices to reach and maintain their boost clocks during these times they're actually needed, rather than being continually tricked into boosting on menus and when paused. For even more context, here's their example with Breath of the Wild on the Steam Deck before it's running at 14.2 watts and after at 7.9. In terms of game compatibility, Ryujinx had a real strong year. They added 700 games to their list. They've tested a total of 4,255 games overall. And out of all of those games, a whopping 3,540 of them are listed as playable. That's 83.4%. 12.1% of games get in-game, 1.2% of games get into the menus, and 2.3% of games just boot. And as for performance improvements, 2023 was a massive year for Ryujinx. Although this is largely hardware dependent, they saw an average FPS increase of about 36% overall. And to cap things off, here's the list of games that were running day one in Ryujinx, and it's a pretty heavy-hitting list. I mean, we've got The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Wonder, Super Mario RPG, Pikmin 4, and more. The Ryujinx development team had a very strong December. In fact, they had a very strong 2023 overall. I can't thank them enough for everything they've done. Massive hat tips and shoutouts to the entire development team, and I can't wait to see what's next. Next up, this is a real interesting one. Apparently, the Wii Shop revival service RiiShop enters public beta. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to a very interesting YouTube video in the description below. It says it's available as a public beta. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Did you use the Wii Shop quite a bit, or did you completely ignore it when it was around? Next up, we're quickly talking about the unofficial Spider-Man 2 PC port that is kind of a product of the Insomniac leaks. Anyways, apparently the two teams working on the Spider-Man 2 build are merging, and PC Focus says this will end in a better looking and optimized version for everyone. And sure enough, shortly after that, and widely reported now, that the Spider-Man 2 PC build torrent is out. Go figure. Next up, we're talking about A Way Out on Steam, and EA has just updated this game in a way that a lot of people I think are gonna like. It has been spotted that Denuvo has been removed from this game. Taking a look on SteamDB, and it appears this game was updated on January 11th, and that's when Denuvo was removed. So if you've got this game, chances are it was updated and you no longer have Denuvo. And if you haven't bought this game yet, it's no longer got Denuvo. Next up, we're talking about a brand new game on Kickstarter. It's called Kraino ReBirth, and the graphics and gameplay here look pretty good. Now, there are two things I find interesting about this project. Number one, the Kickstarter has not launched yet, but there is a Kickstarter page. And number two, there's a Steam page for it with a planned release of February of this year. So I'm going to be adding this one to my wish list and seeing what happens. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. And speaking about Steam, next up we're talking about Alisa, which is a horror-themed action-adventure currently on Steam and currently has a free demo. The game was released back in 2021. It is an indie game, and its review score on Steam is very positive. And the game is now headed to PS5, PS4, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch on February 6th. Moving on, and we're quickly talking about an emulator I don't like, don't support, and don't recommend, and that's NS, a Nintendo Switch emulator on Android. Now, in previous videos, I've gone over why I don't support them. At a super high level here, they have been accused and arguably proven of stealing Yuzu's open source code, and then closing that source, making changes in the background, and selling it, which is against licensing, but these guys don't seem to care. Anyways, version 5.0 was just released, and they say here they've optimized and improved game performance. I'm assuming those are Yuzu's improvements. The replies to their tweet are interesting. No fix for Animal Crossing, and WTF, we thought you were dead. Previously, I have graphical bugs on Burnout Paradise, but now it crashes like Yuzu. I think they steal new codes from Yuzu again. What's new? Ads, payment system, data mining, hand warmer, spyware, pay to emulate? No complete change logs, no Yuzu source change. Well, we already got a free Yuzu that is playable even offline. I would rather support the original. In my opinion, with Yuzu around, there is 0 point to NS. It doesn't make any sense. And for people saying, you know what, it's great, it works well, and who cares if they stole Yuzu code? Well, there's a big problem with that. NS flat out couldn't exist without Yuzu. I'd argue it's built on the backs of the Yuzu developers. And if NS improves, chances are it's taking improvements that were made to Yuzu. Anyways, moving on from that because I could rant about it for a while, and we're shifting to Intellivision emulation on the Nintendo DS with Nintv DS, and this one just got a substantial update. So version 4.6 just dropped, and it's got a massive overhaul to the core emulation to reduce memory footprint. The older DS Lite can now load all of the newest homebrew games. There's optimizations to video, audio, and CPU cores, providing a 10% speed up across the board. They've improved the sound quality. There's a few small fixes to make it more accurate. And with the improved speed here, the DSi largely disables frame skip. Moving on, and if you like Tetris, you're going to like this one. To celebrate Blue Scuddy's record, Blue Scuddy is the 13-year-old that beat the NES version of Tetris. This never-released version of Tetris based on Microsoft's MSX1 with new graphics is now playable. If you are curious about this one, I'll drop a link to this website in the description below and feel free to check it out. Next up, we're quickly talking about Billy Mitchell and Twin Galaxies. We talked about them yesterday when there was a resolution or settlement to their court case. The settlement was private, however Donkey Kong's scores are public, and we didn't see Billy Mitchell's scores there. Fast forward to today, and Twin Galaxies put out a brand new statement. I'll drop a link to the entire statement in the description below. At the bottom of the statement it says, "In fair consideration of the expert opinion provided by Dr. Zaida on behalf of Mr. Mitchell, and consistent with Twin Galaxies' dedication to the meticulous documentation and preservation of video game score history, Twin Galaxies shall herefore reinstate all of Mr. Mitchell's scores as part of the official historical database." This is the big catch. So if we go on ahead and take a look at the historical database, there's a big disclaimer right on the very top. It says this section of the Twin Galaxies website hosts a historical archive of the original score database, copied verbatim from the system obtained during Twin Galaxies' acquisition in 2014. It serves as an unmodified legacy snapshot, preserving performances and achievements, and this is big, predating the current TG ownership and modern adjudication protocols. So basically unverified as per modern means. So if we move out of the archive and go on ahead and take a look at the currently active high scores for Donkey Kong, Billy Mitchell's name is nowhere on this list. And there's scores in here from back in the early 80s. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. Do you think Twin Galaxies won this settlement, or do you think Billy Mitchell did? Moving on, and we're talking about a neat game on Steam. It's called Crystal Story Dawn of Dusk. It's an indie game that just released. There is a free demo available, and it's currently on sale for 20% off. I haven't had a chance to try this one out yet, but it says it's got a mix of action and turn-based battles, and I'm very curious about it. It's on my radar. Moving on, and we're talking about AI in video games, and it appears that AI has made its way into AAA games. According to VGC, Square Enix confirms that Foam Stars contains some AI-generated art. I'll drop a link to the entire article in the description below, and I do recommend checking it out. So Square Enix's quote to VGC is, "AI was used in the creation of the in-game album covers for the music featured in the Foam Stars soundtrack. As developers, we're always looking at new technologies to see how they can assist with game development. In this instance, we experimented with Midjourney using simple prompts to produce abstract images. We loved what was created and used them as final album covers players will see in the game. Everything else was created entirely by our development team." In my opinion here, and I could be completely wrong, I'm assuming that Square Enix and possibly some other big companies are dabbling in AI right now just to see what they can do. And then they'll possibly expand on the use of AI, eliminating jobs and making games cheaper to make. And then using that savings to further their profits, not lowering the cost to the customer. But again, I could be wrong. Moving on, and this is a quick one. We're talking about Stalker 2. And Stalker 2 has just been delayed until September 5th of this year. I don't see a problem with that. I don't mind when games are delayed to make them good. Next up, we're talking about Take-Two Interactive and Remedy Entertainment. Remedy Entertainment has a new logo, and Take-Two doesn't appear to be happy with it. They're currently in a trademark dispute. Now, I'm pretty sure that Remedy is working with Take-Two to remaster some Max Payne games, so that might make this awkward. Anyways, here are the two logos in question side by side. On the left, we've got Rockstar, and on the right, we've got Remedy. I don't see a resemblance between these two logos, but let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Moving on, and we're quickly talking about Wine. Wine stands for Subscribe to Mr. Sujano, or Wine is not an emulator, depending on how you want to interpret that. Anyways, Wine version 9.0 was just released. It's got an experimental Wayland driver in it. And on top of the large number of bug fixes and improvements, there's also some specific ARM64 stuff. It says it's now possible to run existing Windows binaries on ARM64. And last up here, we're talking about Tachiyomi. And we talked about Tachiyomi the other day when development stopped on this reader. Well, apparently there's a brand new substitute for Tachiyomi, and it's called Mihon, and it's also 100% free and open source, and just got a brand new release. So at the time of filming, version 0.16.0 is the latest update. As for what's new, they say nothing except you now need Android 8.0 to install the app. If you are curious about this one and wanted to learn more, I'll drop a link to this GitHub in the description below. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Let me know your thoughts about absolutely any of it in the comments below. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.